Hey Zwifters, welcome to another Recon Stage 7, the penultimate stage of Season 2, and it's the UCI Richmond Reverse, and it's a team time trial. I'm sure Charlie and the team were, this is going to be tough. It's going to be challenging to keep 6 riders together throughout this course. So let's dive in, have a look at the power-ups available for this team time trial, which on this occasion you should absolutely be using at every opportunity. And then let's dive into the course and these tricky 3 climbs to consider for the UCI Richmond Reverse. All right, so 32.6 kilometers, 315 meters of elevation. Here's the course profile. As you can see, 3 climbs. The first 2 climbs, punchy, come very early on in the course. The third climb, should I say, is a little bit more of a 1 kilometer drag. It is draftable, but again, you've just got to watch out for those lighter riders pushing hard and maybe dropping some of those. So really focus at this point, in particular on that first lap, at keeping all your riders together, because the second half of the course, as you can see, or the second half of each lap, is pan flat, and that's where you can really get into your rotations, concentrate on your technique and your power numbers, and really drive it towards that finish line before you get a little bit of the recovery on the descent. And again, we start those 3 climbs for the second lap. All right, so in terms of power-ups, we have the draft, we have the aero, and we have the feather. These are really usable in this course. The aero, you've got to use with a bit of caution, I would say, on the flatter sections. Again, just making sure, or trying to make sure that you're using it at the right time and you're not dropping your riders. And again, I think it's all about communication, utilizing the feather on those climbs. That third climb is also an opportunity to use that draft. Again, utilizing that draft to recover after your turn is also really useful, but make sure you're communicating with your team. There are 5 opportunities to pick up power-ups on each lap in here. So this is why I really think you need to utilize those power-ups, but use them well. Communicate. It will help to reduce your time for this course and take you higher up that leaderboard. All right, so just before we get on course, 2 things to talk about, and that first of all is knowing your numbers. As you know, my team and many other teams out there, we use this power table here from Paul Fitzpatrick, the Zwift DS. So have a look at this, ensure your riders know their numbers, what they should be doing in first wheel, second wheel, and so on. You just need to input the rider's name, the height, the weight, and their raw power, their best 20-minute power, and the table will do the rest. The second thing to think about on this course is, what are you going to do on the climbs? What I would advise to do on the climbs is pick a watts per kilogram and get the whole team to punch through those climbs at that watts per kilo. The third climb on the course, which is 1 kilometer, a bit draggy, it is draftable, so you could get into a bit more of a turn situation there, taking turns, taking your pulls on that situation. But the first 2 climbs, pick a number, say, right, we're riding at 4.1 watts per kilogram, and ride that climb at 4 watts per kilogram. After those 2 climbs, bear in mind there's immediate descent. So this will give time, if you have dropped a heavier rider, for the heavier riders to close that gap. That first lap in particular, get all your riders round. Get 6 riders, if possible, round that first lap. You will need them on that second section where it's really flat. Particularly those heavy riders, they will really benefit the team on that flat section on the second half of each lap. Right, let's get on course. Let's take a look. All right, so I have done the course notes already. You'll see a copy of these flash up on screen. We're going to leave the pens, we'll take a left. Sadly, you're not going to go through a start-finish banner, but thankfully, we are going to take this descent. This descent is around about 900 meters. This particular descent, you need to push, push, push. Get that speed up, get that momentum up. It's the first 60 seconds of riding. Just make sure that speed and that pace is high, because you're going to go roll straight in to that first climb. All right, so climb 1, Broad Street, is going to come at kilometer 1.7. It's 500 meters, 6% average gradient. Push up it, punch up it, make sure you get all the riders up together. You've got a recovery straight after. All right, kilometre 2.7, it's the second climb of the day. It's Franklin Street. This is the climb that takes you to the top of the cobbles before you descend down Libby Hill. It does pitch up, as you take this right-hand bend here, it does pitch up to 20+%. So just punch around there as hard as you can, get all the riders together around the corner. It does then flatten off a little bit as you head towards that banner, and then you can descend down the Libby cobbles. All right, so each of those first two climbs, Franklin Street and Broad Street, you would have picked up a power up. So again, if you got a feather, you got a draft or something like that, utilize it, because again, you're going to pick these up. What I would say is, in terms of that second banner that we've just gone through at the top of Libby, just hold on to that until you get to the third climb, and then you can make a team decision on how you're going to utilize that. All right, so between kilometre 3 and kilometre 7, there's some minor bumps, but it's relatively flat. I would not advise to utilize the power-ups at this point. You need to wait until this third climb, this 1 kilometre drag up Main Street. All right, so we're on to Main Street, a 1 kilometre climb. This is going to come and start at kilometre 7 on lap 1. Now, it's got a gradient between 3 and 6%. So as I said, it is draftable, but some of the heavier riders will find it a little bit tougher on this drag. So utilize those lightweight riders. Keep the riders together on lap 1. Lap 2, you can make a different decision if you want, or if you need to drop one of those riders. Someone takes a real suicide pull up this climb, then that's fine. But remember, the heavier riders will benefit on the second half of this lap. So think about your rotations, think about the recovery on the draft, and utilize your power up on this climb. It starts at kilometre 7 and it's 1 kilometre long. All right, so from kilometre 8, it's pretty much flat now until you cross that start-finish banner and start lap 2. Now, you will also go through 2 sprint banners here, and I do expect you're going to pick up power-ups each one of those. Again, so you've got the draft, utilize that after a pull to recover. You've got the aero, just use cautiously, because you don't want to be dropping any riders. You want to stay together in that line, taking your perfect turns through this flatter section. Maybe on this flatter section, whilst one of the heavier riders is taking his 60-second pull, maybe the lighter riders can be utilising the aero and the draft to sit on those wheels. If you've got a feather, just hold on to it, because again, lap 2, we're going to hit those 3 climbs once again. All right, so 16.2, 16.3, that's lap 1 done. You're going through the start-finish banner, yet another power-up to get here as well, and you're going to roll straight into that descent for a little bit of recovery before we start those 3 climbs all over again. Know your course on this one. It's a technical course, so get those recon notes in front of you, either on the screen or printed out in front. Knowing the course this time will really benefit, because it is a really technical team time trial. Know your numbers. Go and visit those Zwift and Zwift DS pages. Input those numbers so we know what we're doing in terms of the weight of each rider and the power requirements for each rider on such a course like this as well. Let's have a look at bike choice, because there are some tricky decisions maybe to make on this. All right, so typically on a course like this, I would say go for an all-rounder. The first half of the course is pretty lumpy. The second half of the course is really aero. When we've raced this in a points race situation before, I've typically gone for a more aero bike, because again, that second half of the stage is pretty pan flat, and we're going to be thinking about the sprint opportunities at the finish line. Completely different for a team time trial. And it really depends on the makeup of your team. If you've got a fairly balanced team in terms of weight and power, then just try and make sure that every rider has a similar setup. An aero or an all-rounder bike would be choice. Maybe if you've got riders at each end of the category in this in different weights, you can think about putting some of the heavier riders who are going to really pull hard on those flatter sections to go for something a little bit more all-round. And maybe for the climbers, go for something a little bit more aero, which will allow them to draft a little bit more easily, if that's the right English to use, on the second half of the course when those bigger riders are taking those bigger pulls. As always, in terms of bike choice, I'm going to leave a link in the description to the Zwift Insider pages that will tell you the most aero or climate or best all-rounder bike at your level. All right, so in terms of recon, go and ride this course. It is a technical course for a team time trial. If you can, ride it with your teammates. Team Rave are doing their RaveCon Sunday night, 5 p.m. for the Richmond Reverse. As always, thank you for watching the recon. Don't forget to use those course notes and share them with your teammates and friends. And don't forget, share the channel, share this video with your friends and your Zwifting buddies and your teammates at the same time. It really is appreciated. Also, if you can, please remember to give it a thumbs up. It really does help out this video and the channel a hell of a lot, and I really appreciate it. We're back next week for the final stage in Paris. A sprinter's course, but a long race and plenty to think about in terms of maximizing points and maybe trying to shed some of those sprinters on this particular course on those longer cobbled sections. So don't forget to come back for that. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Give it a thumbs up. It really does help. And I'll see you next week for the final recon of season 2.